You are listening to the program Discovering Scriptures with Dr. Peter John Parisis. We're now at Daniel chapter 2, verse 12. First, reading this in context, the paragraph is Daniel 2:12 and 2:13. Reading from the King James Bible first, quote, "For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain." Unquote. Now, you're probably wondering what's going on if you just tuned in. In chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar has had a dream. He can't remember it. It's bothering him. He woke up. He called for the wise men to be assembled, the astrologers and the wise Chaldeans and the magicians. They assembled. They were very haughty about their proud response to the king about what they're able to do, basically. The king has told them, "Tell me the dream and the interpretation. Otherwise, I'll cut you up in pieces and make your house a dunghill. But if you do so, I'll reward you greatly." They, in turn, have said, "Tell us the dream, we'll tell you the interpretation." He figures out they're just buying time, that this will either pass or he'll remember the dream and tell them. So he realizes that they're not able to do so, so he has decreed to kill him. So this decree has gone out. Daniel has stopped writing in Hebrew in this chapter, and he's now writing in the Chaldeans' language, Aramaic. Now, so far, we don't have the verse that tells us that Daniel is not here. This happened during the second year of his ministry, which we're implying that this was during the 3-year period that he was being fitted and trained and taught on how to be a wise man, to be inquired upon to see if he will stand before the king. Him and his buddies, as we most commonly refer to them in the Chaldean tongue, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's not their names, but that's what they called them in the Chaldean language. So now the king is furious, and we're in this verse now, in verse 12. We're going to go ahead and read this from the literal interlineal Bible, which does a direct translation, does not put in sentence structure, so we can see if there's anything raw that we can get here. Quote, "To destroy," which has an infinite construct, "and give a command," which is a conjunctive perfect, "very," and "furious." This is a conjunctive perfect, and it's in third person. And furious, was angry, again, third person masculine singular. The king, this reason, preposition, for, of Babylon, the wise, and then it's interjected men, because it's written in masculine, pure construct. So the wise is written not in feminine, but in masculine, so you can put in that he's talking about the men, not the females. All, so that is the literal translation of this. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this verse again. We're going to read it now in the King James Bible, just the verse itself that we're going to be parsing out. King James Version, quote, "For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon." Unquote. The Young's literal translation reads, "Therefore the king hath been angry and very wroth, and hath said to destroy all the wise men of Babylon." Now I want you to look at this, and the ESV, quote, "Because of this the king was angry and very furious, and commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed." And then I want you to look at a translation that I don't usually use to study, RSV, Revised Standard Version, quote, "Because of this the king was angry and very furious, and commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed." So you can see there's no difference in that verse. It basically, there's the King James. Now let's read an old version, the Geneva Bible, which is written before the King James in the 1500s. Quote, "For this cause the king was angry and in great fury, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babel." Unquote. Now I want you to notice that in the New King James Version. Instead of the King James Version, for this cause, they have said, for this reason. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure if there was any reasoning in the king's command or of this problem. It doesn't seem like he was listening to his wise men at all. So let's parse this out. I did some reading on the old versions. Tyndale never translated most of the Old Testament before he died. So I looked at Wycliffe's 1385 version of this, and it was very interesting to read it and understand what he was trying to get across in very early English. So let's go through this now, parsing this out. We're looking at parsing from the Aramaic, which I'm not an expert on. I've not done this. I've done the Greek and the Hebrew. So it's the same principle. I'm going to go ahead and go through this and find out what we have to look at and what we need to see. Did Daniel write this for particular reasons? Has he used it before? Can we get any information on how he's using it, definitions, or any looking at the structure of how it's written to give us any insight? So this is the reason for parsing from the original language. For this cause. So let's go ahead and define what is Strong's Concordance giving us for cause. When we look at this, it's been translated as all, any, whole, because, cause. So we're going to go back now. So it doesn't say reason. It says cause, basically. The king was angry. Now let's parse this out. This is a PL stem, and as you remember, this is very similar to the quell in the Hebrew. It's a casual action of an active voice. So we have a PO stem, we have a perfect aspect, which expresses a completed action. So it's a casual, completed action, was angry, and very furious. Now, let's go ahead and look at this. This is also a PL stem and a perfect aspect. Casual and completed. So he's furious and commanded. Let's parse that one out. It's a PL perfect also, so the same thing. Casual, completed, and commanded to destroy. Now, this is an APL stem infinitive aspect. So what does this mean? APL is a causative conjunction. And the infinitive aspect, you can basically put ing to it. So what do we have here? We have basically a causative action that is being done. So this stuff caused him to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So that's the parsing out of this verse. Let's see what people have used in the commentaries to try to give us more insight into this chapter. Now, I love John Gill's commentary of the Bible. I own original printing of these books, tombs as they're called, that was basically helped to be purchased because they were quite expensive. They were a few $100s each, by a lady who I used to work with and the jury way back. And this is what John Gill writes. Quote, "For this cause the king was angry and very furious, not only because they could not tell his dream and the interpretation of it, but because they represented him as requiring a thing unreasonable and impossible, which had never been done by any potentate but himself, and could never be answered but by the gods. This drew him into an excess of wrath and fury, which in those tyrannical and despotic princes was exceeding great and terrible, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon, and not only those that were now in his presence, but all others, concluding from this instance that they were as useless set of men, yet deceivers and impostors." Unquote. Now remember, John Gill has actually this commentary is perfect on this verse, as we have learned in the previous verses, that this is exactly what took place and how they made the king feel. He has called all the wise men, the Chaldeans, the magicians, the astrologers, he's called them all, and they've assembled. These are the ones that he has himself appointed to stand before him. Now he has others that are in the wing, like the Judean children, if you want to say young men, who are being put through the 3-year period of eating his meat, drinking his wine, learning the language, and learning the culture and the tablets that have been written from other cultures to be inquired by to see if they're worthy to stand before the king as wise men. They're not at this level yet. But yet, not only is he killing off all the wise men, the magicians, astrologers, and all that have assembled, he's now after those who are up and coming. Because he's going after, as we'll see in the next verse, he's going after Daniel and his buddies that have been captured and being trained. And they're in their 2nd year training of the 3-year period. So, verse 12 gives us a reason for why the king is furious. He has had the dream. He can't remember it. He knows it's an important dream. He wants to know what the dream was and the interpretation of it because he knows it's significant. And then these wise men basically really, tell him that they're going to be able to do what he needs. And then when he tells them, I want to know the dream and the interpretation, they basically ridicule him that this is impossible and try to get some wisdom put into his brain from these old men, it seems. And now he is furious because he's considered this to be an insult, basically. So this is where we are now. May God richly bless you as you study the scriptures. And please remember to continually hold me up in prayer and this ministry. We are seeking to go forward from the very first verse of the Bible to the very last verse of the Bible, verse by verse, on audio form to broadcast throughout the entire world. Just like Through the Bible did the Bible in chunks, we're now seeking to do what John Gill did in his written commentary. He's the only one to have gone through the Bible verse by verse and done a commentary on the entire Bible. This is going to be an audio, and we're going to seek out only what the Bible has for us. No denominationalism, no doctrines. We're just seeking out the truth from the Word of God so you can formulate your own thoughts, your own doctrines, your own belief system, and have a closer and personal relationship with God, which is what we are created here to do, to walk with God and praise Him, worship Him, and pray and tell others. So please tell others about this broadcast. Please hit the subscribe button, and the little bell button will tell you also, if you hit that, when the newest ones come up. And share this with others so that they can go ahead and start walking through the Bible with us, verse by verse. The book of James is already done, and now we're into the book of Daniel. God bless you.